I make a lot of money selling the things that I make. And if you're making things people love and still can't get consistent sales, here's what I wish someone told me when I was getting started. Most creative sellers are carrying 6 beliefs that keeps you from starting or making more sales, and you feel like you've tried everything. I'm gonna walk you through all 6 of them today. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. Okay, this is gonna be another mindset video. And yeah, it is. But before you click away, I wanna tell you why I'm making it, because I am the last person who thought this stuff was important, okay? You can hand 2 people the exact same strategy, and the one who believes their work is worth real money will execute it completely differently than the one who doesn't. I spent years looking for the right strategy, like better photos, better platforms, better marketing, and the whole time, the thing that actually decided my prices, decided whether I pitched myself to a magazine that would eventually make me thousands of dollars in sales, decided whether I would launch or sat on things for another 6 months, was a set of beliefs that I had never once confronted or admitted I had. And I didn't read this from a book, just life experience, okay? Your beliefs make your business decisions before your analytical brain does. That is why this is so important. And the thing about beliefs is they don't feel like beliefs from the inside. They feel like facts, right? At some point, people were certain the world was flat because from where they stood, it looked flat. But being certain about something doesn't make it real or like the absolute truth, like 1 + 1 = 2. So, as we go through these 6 beliefs, the question isn't whether you agree with them, it's whether these beliefs are holding you back from doing what you want in your life or in your business. Okay, the first belief is the fear that if you get serious about selling your art or your craft, it will ruin the thing you love, which is the creative parts. That the craft becomes a job, and the joy you get from making things gets consumed by orders and spreadsheets and marketing. But I want to share with you what actually happened to me, because I got to experience this from both sides. I started making jewelry at 15 in Malaysia, and when I shared my work online, something happened that had never happened to me before. People got me. Like, I found my tribe. I grew up being told I wasn't good enough and I wasn't smart like the other kids at school, and I didn't fit in with the other kids. And here were strangers on the internet saying they loved the things I made. I started making internet friends. My first sale was $20 for a hand-bound notebook to a girl in America. Selling something I made with my bare hands did not take the magic of creating away from me. Selling was a part of the magic, the sparkle. Someone valuing your work enough to pay for it is one of the best feelings for a creative person. And the belief that it will ruin you robs you of that before you ever get to feel it. And in 20 years of doing this, the people that I have watched actually lose the joy, couldn't make enough money to justify the hard parts, and then they quit. The ones who are making bank, they find a way to bring the joy and the fun back. So the ones that lost their joy, they couldn't find the balance between the money and the creativity. We are allowed and can have both at the same time. Both are important for survivability and for fulfillment. But it is a balance you have to foster and nurture and protect. Some seasons I get out of balance too, and that is totally normal. But as long as you believe both can be true for you, that you can make good money and be creatively fulfilled at the same time, you can then work at calibrating that balance. Belief number 2, this one shows up when you have a slow sales week, or say you do your first craft show and you barely make a sale. It is the belief that your sales numbers are saying something about you, about whether you're talented, whether your work is good enough, whether you should even be doing this. And I get why us makers fall into this trap so much more than any other kind of business owner out there, because when you make something with your own hands, a stranger not buying it doesn't feel like a business thing, it feels like a personal rejection. Like they looked at a piece of you and your soul and said, no thanks. But I think about my first 6 years. The work wasn't perfect, but it was objectively good enough. I could sell to total strangers. People told me they loved my work, that was super cute. However, if sales were a measurement of talent or skill and all the compliments that I got, I should have been doing so much better than $9,000 for the year with 40 to 60 hour work weeks. My actual problem was traffic and strategy, and no amount of talent or skill or learning will fix a strategy problem, unless you're learning about the strategy, but then you have to go and implement it, right? But the numbers were never saying, you're not good enough. They were saying, not enough people are seeing your product or your photos aren't doing your work justice or your pricing or your branding is confusing people. That's what your shop's data tells you. It points at things in your shop that you can go and fix. I'm not gonna pretend that I have fully mastered this one because even now a slow month can still get in my head. Like, oh my God, no one likes my stuff anymore. After 20 years, I'm finally done. That feeling doesn't fully go away, and that is normal. But the difference is what you do next. When you look at a slow week as a reflection on yourself instead of the work, you spiral, and the spiral keeps you from looking at what the numbers are actually pointing to. But when you can separate the two, even just enough time to go and check the photos or the traffic numbers or to ask for help, instead of questioning your whole existence, that's when things start improving a little bit at a time. You are allowed to feel disappointed by a slow week, okay? You are human. But let's just ease up on letting it tell you who you are and what your worth is as a human being. And here's the thing that changed how slow weeks feel for me. For the first chunk of my business, if sales were slow, all I could do was post more and hope the algorithm worked in my favor, which usually does nothing for me. What got me out of that was having my own email list. People who already bought from me or who explicitly raised their hand and said, hey, I love your work, I want to hear more, and I can reach them directly at any time with no algorithm getting in the way of my work getting seen by my most excited potential buyers. I have always said to my students, sending an email to your list is like making money on demand. You got extra bills to pay this week? Send out an email to your list, which is what Brevo, our sponsor for today's video, helps you do exactly that. Brevo does email marketing and automations for your online store, so you can set up something like a welcome sequence once, and every new person who joins your list gets it automatically while you are at your desk making stuff or picking your kids up from school. It also does SMS messaging, which can convert better than email into sales. And they have built-in features to help you get campaigns drafted and set up way faster, so you don't have to worry about not knowing what to say, staring at that blank screen, having writer's block, or not knowing what to write about. Every store needs an email list, and I always say that your business revenue is a direct correlation with your email list size. So don't sleep on this. Brevo has a free plan for those of you just getting started, and if you have a larger list, their paid plans are super affordable. If you want to try it, use my code CreativeHive50 and you get 50% off their starter and standard plans for your first 3 months. That's for new customers. The link is in the description. Okay, belief number 3. I actually get super triggered by this one, and it sounds harmless at first, and it is everywhere. Do what you love and you will never work a day in your life. I have probably said that a few times myself before, but I think it is lacking so much context, and I believe that this sets you up for failure way more than anything else does, because if you believe the whole thing is supposed to feel like love and fun, the first time you run into something that feels hard or annoying, we dramatize it. Like you're doing it wrong, or this isn't meant for you, you're not cut out for this. And there is a lot to monetizing your craft and your creativity that do not feel like fun, and that is normal. Photographing the same necklace over and over again because you can't get the lighting right, or writing product descriptions, or figuring out the logistics of shipping, answering customer service emails, especially from angry people. None of that is fun, but you know what? It sure beats driving an hour to and from an office job you hate. And I get it, none of that is why you got into making things. But if you believe it's all supposed to be fun, so you keep doing just the fun parts, which is making more stuff, and you avoid the boring or hard parts, which is everything that actually gets your stuff seen and sold, then when the sales don't come, and you point at the results and say, see, it doesn't work. And I say this as someone who is genuinely lazy and undisciplined with mood swings. I'm like neurodivergent with anxiety, and I'm a reflector in human design. And that's not me trying to be cute, just ask my husband. I didn't fix or change any of that about myself. On paper, I should not have succeeded in business, but I built my business around my character traits. And here's what I did. Of all of the businessy things, what was the thing that got me the most sales? For me, it was media outreach, email marketing, paid ads. Focus on that and drop all the other businessy things I didn't enjoy doing, like social media. You do not have to grind through it all. So learn how to minimize the boring or unfun bits, or learn to make them fun, or replace them with something else that is more agreeable with you while still getting you the results you want. But how do you know which of the businessy things are the ones worth focusing on for your shop? That is exactly what my free workshop walks you through. It is the same process I have used in my own handmade shop for 20 years, step by step. The link is in the description if you want to watch that for free. Belief number 4, and this one's a little bit uncomfortable, but aren't they all? And this is about the artist's ego. And I don't mean ego like arrogance. I mean the version where your standards for yourself get so high that they keep you invisible. So you don't post your work because it's not quite there yet. You don't promote yourself because that feels cringy or desperate or like something a sellout would do. You're waiting until the work is good enough to speak for itself. And I know this one personally. I used to be so shy, like I couldn't get through a job interview level shy, and I would sweat bullets just picking up the phone to call to place a pizza delivery. Here's the thing, I had to be really honest with myself. All of that waiting and not talking about my work felt like it was about having high standards. It wasn't, okay? I was protecting myself from being judged because if I never put my work out there, nobody could reject it or reject me. But the price of that protection is that nobody could find my work and I was broke. My first pieces were awful, okay? But I shared them anyway on LiveJournal and DeviantArt because I didn't know enough to be embarrassed yet. And that's the version of you that gets found, not the one waiting to be good enough. Now, the other half of this belief is the idea that selling your work, promoting it, being commercial about it, somehow devalues the creativity. And I want to challenge that. There are many amazing artists and creators out there making good money. Calling them a sellout is, in my opinion, a social construct meant to keep us small and scared. The whole starving artist thing was popularized by an 1840s French poet, Henri Murger, who later influenced La Boheme and Rent on Broadway, and now other artists repeat that narrative that you need to suffer and struggle for your art. It's also a part of our history and our DNA that standing out feels scary because you don't want to be a social pariah, an outcast, which is for some people worse than death. In reality, you are still safe, people still love you can still love you, and that fear is valid, but it's not necessarily real. Also, can I just say, marketing in business can be an extremely creative act. I learned that myself and is the very reason I even started Creative Hive. I got so nerdy about marketing because I fell in love with it and psychology around e-commerce and business, and I needed an outlet to talk about it, and then I started blogging back in 2012. Getting your work in front of people takes the same imagination as making the work, and honestly, some of the most creative stuff I've ever done in my business was figuring out how to pitch a scented tiny waffle necklace to a magazine editor. Belief number 5 is the voice that says this isn't realistic. Making money from your art or craft, that's not a real career. That's not a real business. Be practical. Sometimes that voice comes from people who love you. My family sent me to college in Wisconsin to study actuarial science, which is about as far from polymer clay jewelry as you can get. I failed the professional exams twice. I couldn't even land a single job, even after graduating with almost a 3.7 GPA. And the whole time, the thing that was actually working, Tiny Hands, my business, was sitting right there in my dorm room, being treated like a distraction from my real future in corporate, which, by the way, I never had. Understand that the lack of belief is just that they have never seen anyone else do what you are trying to do. And sometimes the voice isn't coming from your family at all. It's coming from you. The first year I made $9,000 working full-time hours, my husband asked me very nicely, "What are you doing?" I broke down crying because I had no freaking idea. So here's what I want to say about this one. The people doubting you are usually working with old information. They know the version of this where an artist is starving, where craft fairs are the maximum potential you can get, where handmade is just this cute hobby. They have never seen someone with no business experience start one from the ground up and make it a successful thing. You don't have to convince them. Maybe you have to convince yourself. My parents doubted this for years until the income I made gave them evidence over 20 years consistently that it was possible and that they don't need to worry about me. So just because you have never seen it before doesn't mean it's impossible. But in this day and age, honestly, there are so many people making a creative self-employed career work. It is the best time to let go of this belief. If they can all do it, if I can do it, you can do it too. I truly believe that. All it takes is seeing someone else pave the path for you so you can just walk down that same road. Belief number 6, This is the one I told you at the start that I still find hard to admit myself, even after 20 years and almost $2 million in sales with just the one business, Tiny Hands. On the surface, this belief looks like a pricing problem. Maybe you're pricing right now by just adding up your materials, your hours, and then you round down and then maybe knock off a little bit more dollars so that nobody thinks you're being greedy. I hear versions of this from makers constantly. One of my Assail a Day students said, "I can't even afford my own work. How could I ask someone else to pay that?" But underneath the math, there is something else going on. Somewhere along the way, a lot of us picked up the idea that wanting real money for creative work is asking for too much, that the acceptable thing to do is to just be grateful anyone buys at all. So we don't raise our prices, we don't charge what we're supposed to, we don't pitch ourselves to bigger opportunities, we don't follow up on the invoice because it all feels greedy. I still catch myself doing this. I'll send out an invoice, and when it doesn't get paid right away, I question whether I did a bad job. I grew up being told I wasn't good enough, right? And that mindset doesn't just evaporate because sales went up. So I'm not gonna sit here and tell you that I fixed this belief and made it go away, but I do manage it. The difference is that now I can tell when it's the belief talking or the limiting belief talking and not the reality of what is actually happening. And over time, or even instantly if you want it to, that belief can change into something that is more healthy and productive for you. Like, hey, I'm worth it. I have value, because every time I raised prices, people kept buying. In fact, they bought more. Your customer isn't standing there calculating materials and your hourly rate. They're looking at something that looks beautiful, that they fell in love with, made by an actual person, and then deciding if the final product is worth it to them. You can let them make that decision for themselves. And you are allowed to ask for a number that doesn't require you to apologize for it. And you know what made believing that I deserve the money even harder? It was the picture in my head of what someone with a 6 or 7 figure business looks like, because we see that all the time on social media, right? The designer handbags, the sports cars, looking expensive all the time. I am not a flashy person, and honestly, some part of me thought that is what asking for real money leads to. But here's my reality. I drive a used car that's fully paid off. I don't pay for manicures or eyelash extensions. I made a whole video about what it actually looks like to be wealthy. And it's gonna surprise you. It's gonna change everything you know about wealth as a creative self-employed person. It's on your screen right now, so go watch that next.